don't be like the people who do the wrong thing, they feel bad, and they feel bad and say, how can I remember Allah now? I'm such a scum, I did this bad thing, I shouldn't be remembering Allah now. Who am I to remember Allah? What dirty tongue of mine is going to say Allah's name? Forget that. That's shaitan. That's shaitan. What is a good time to make dua, somebody asked me. What is a good time to remember Allah? I tell you, there is no such thing as a bad time to remember Allah. There's no such thing as a bad time to remember Allah. That question itself is invalid, as though the remembrance of Allah is limited to a time. Allah says, أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلَمْ يَذْكُرَ الْأَوْقَاتِ الْمُعَيَّنَةِ وَالسَّاعَاتِ الْخَاصَّةِ. He didn't mention any special times. He just said, I will respond to your dua whenever you make dua. It's on your schedule, not mine. He put it on us, not on him. Especially the people of ihsan. Allah says, you want to be people of ihsan? Here's the ayah. Am I a Muslim? Am I a mu'min? Am I a muhsin? How do I become from the people of ihsan? When you do something wrong, there is no gap between you doing something wrong and immediately remembering Allah and asking for forgiveness. This is not an open license. Ayyuhal aghbiya, those of you that are idiots by social construct, you've been conditioned into being morons. Allah says I should sin and then I'll say sorry. No, you will sin, it will happen, but not on purpose. You don't go out there to sin. It'll happen, you'll make a mistake, and when it does, then you turn to Allah, and then you ask for forgiveness immediately. وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Last example, and I'm done inshallah. With this ayah we'll stop. We'll come back and do ayah number 22 of Surah An-Nisa. But as I leave you with this one, I saw a child one time in Saudi. I could not have seen that here. I don't think that's possible here. But in Saudi there was a child who was crying, and his mother was really mad at him in the mall in Riyadh. This was many years ago when I was a kid. And mama's having a field day with him. Bam, bam. I mean, his bottom must have been red. Whew. But this kid is hugging his mother, and he ain't letting go for life. And he's going, mama, mama. He started like a mule at this point. When the kids cry a long time, they start sounding like a mule. So he was at the mule phase. It starts, and then it goes, and after a while, about 20 minutes in, it's the screaming banshee situation. So he's at that screaming banshee state, and he's holding on to his mother, and the mother's beating him. She's pounding his bottom. And what does he go run off to someone else? No. He says, mama. She's really mad at me. Where am I going to go though? If I leave her, we're in the middle of a mall. The only one I can turn to is my mother. She's my only shelter. When you and I do wrong, of course we made Allah angry. Of course we made Him angry. But where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? That child at least has a father, has a brother, somebody you might have. A believer knows there's nowhere to go. A child might hide behind the father, and the father says, no, take it easy on him. Let me take care of it. Right? But with a believer, we know Allah is Al-Qahhar, the undeniable. Where are you going to go? You can't hide from Him. You can't hide from Him. مَا يَخْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Nothing is hidden from Allah. You can't go anywhere. So when you do something shameful, obviously it's embarrassing. You don't want to face people. You don't want anybody to know what you did. But you better know, Allah was watching the entire time. He was there. He was a witness to your shameful act. He was part of that incident. He was there. And so you immediately recognize you're here. Imagine just in the scene sense, you're doing something disgusting on your computer and your mother walks into the room. How embarrassed do you feel? How humiliated? How disgusted with yourself? How could I be doing this? If you're really lost it, you'll yell at your mother. That means you're gone. You're not even a human anymore. But if you have any ounce of decency left in you, you'll be so humiliated, so embarrassed that your mother saw you in this state. Now for a believer, for the time he was sinning, he forgot that Allah is watching him. His iman wasn't there. That's why the Prophet says, لا يزني الزاني حين يزني وهو مؤمن ولا يسرق السارق حين يسرق وهو مؤمن. ولا يشرب الخمر حين يشرب وهو مؤمن. The guy who drinks alcohol is not actually in a state of faith when he's drinking alcohol. At that time he forgets that he believes in Allah. The guy who's doing zina is not actually believing in Allah at that time. At that time he forgets that he's a Muslim. He lets his animal self take over. Then the Muslim self comes back. Well, when you have a slip up and you forget Allah, you can't forget for that long. You'll remember Allah immediately, and immediately you come back to your state of iman and you realize, Ya Allah, I'm so embarrassed. How can I have forgotten? How could I have slipped up? And if you can do that, then Allah is proud of you. If you can do that after sin, then you're from the people of ihsan. Congratulations. Subhanallah. This is one of my favorite passages in the Quran, because before it ends, it mentions sin. And before it begins, Allah mentions Jannah, and after it ends, Allah mentions Jannah. It's two times Allah describes Jannah, and in between Allah describes the people of taqwa. And for people of taqwa, He describes they control their anger, they forgive people, remember that? They spend when it's easy and difficult, and they sin and ask Allah for forgiveness immediately. They're human, they're not angels. They're not angels. But if you and I can do that, then we have a hope with Allah Azza wa Jal that He will forgive our mistakes.